Welcome, everybody.
Hey, hey.
Work smarter where you want.
This is learning at its most fun.
Good morning to some, good afternoon to others. Thank you so much for joining us today for a new Partner Spotlight. I'm Austin Johnson. I'm a trainer and subject matter expert here at Redtail Technology. Today we have a new integration partner to introduce to you. It is Pulse360. And so today I've invited my friend Anand to tell you on how you can use the power of Pulse360 to spend less time documenting your advice. So Anand, without further ado, go ahead and take it away and show us how we can spend less time documenting our advice.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity here. And thanks for everybody that's joining. Let me see if I can just share my screen here. So right before I start, I wanted to kind of just give you guys some feedback that we've received. This is just 3 of the many feedback that we're getting with the software now out in the world and advisors using it. It's 100 times better than what they imagined. This is phenomenal. This is like magic. We actually, embarked on this journey about 2 years ago, specifically because I wanted to fix the challenges that all advisors face and their teams face when we have to communicate with our client. So a little background on me, just so to kind of table set this. I have been in the industry for about 20 years. I've done everything I tell people, from serving coffee to clients to sit in front of high net worth individuals doing business insurance planning, as well as estate planning and what have you. That was not enough work, so I also added on a compliance hat, and I supervised about 20 advisors where I've handled verbal, written complaints, as well as some, been on satellite edges of a couple of arbitration cases. And, par for the course that comes with all of that is also I've run thousands of financial plans and also put together portfolios of hundreds of millions of dollars and traded, rebalanced. So every nook and cranny of this business I have done. And the problem I saw, which I decided to solve here for all advisors, is literally what I call the last mile, is how do you communicate your advice, which is the value you provide to your clients, to the client in an easy, efficient manner, as well as potentially saving you as a senior person or senior advisor your time and having the junior staff kind of pick up some of this element. Compliance is also a big angle of when you deliver something in writing. I can tell you with my compliance background that if you don't have something sent to the client in writing, when there is a complaint, unfortunately, it doesn't go well if there's not a written documentation of the recommendations that you've made. Of course, you can have lots of records and you could have research up the wazoo, but the reality is the client can just come back, and I've had this, saying, no, there was a misunderstanding, and it's like, okay, there's no coming back from those situations. So I looked at solving this last mile problem of communicating with the client, but also it solves the compliance angle for you. Now with Reg BI and Form CRS, just adds more complexity to our day-to-day. I'm sure all as advisors, this is not something you got into for, kind of keeping with documentation and all of that. So that's kind of where we're coming from as an angle, just so that you're aware. Working with Redtail and being able to push the notes back into Redtail for record keeping purposes, it just takes it to the next level for us. And they've been gracious enough to work with us to now enable us with the integrations. So let me start showing what we're doing basically. So I'm going to actually jump over to Redtail right now. And what I'm going to show you, just so you're aware, it's literally a client review meeting. Let's just say it's out a couple of weeks, and there's an agenda that you need to prepare. Now, working with many financial advisors over the years, I was a consultant as well. I know a lot of times, the mental agenda is prepared 5 minutes before the meeting. But I can tell you what happens down the line is that we normally forget to request certain statements or documents. And then during the meeting, we have to ask for it, and now creates more work for the team or the staff to later follow up and make sure we get it. So obviously sending an agenda ahead of time is ideal, and we all know that, but the challenges are putting that together takes a long time. So I'm going to show you how easy we're making that process. Then during the meetings, you're generally taking notes either on a yellow pad and or some advisors have staff in there, or they're typing up some of this. So I'm going to show you that element of Pulse 360 as well, and how all of that kind of translates back into Redtail. And then, of course, the main is to send out a follow-up to the clients, and what you can do by creating annual summaries and all of that. So I'll start off with Redtail here. I have Mike here as a client. And what I did is I created an appointment in Redtail, just called the Redtail webinar for 10:30 today. You can see there's nothing in the description here. So I'm just going to say, this is a test for now, just so that you can see what we do with this. So I'm going to just save that. So that's there. When we jump over to Pulse 360, and this is Pulse 360, I'm not necessarily going to go through all these different screens, because those are, you're not going to spend as much time on those as you are on this. This is really going to be the workhorse screen where you're going to be most of the time. We bring in the client's names, addresses, email address, and date of birth in from Redtail. And then any future appointments you have booked will sync over. So here, for example, I have that appointment that has come in. The basic idea of Pulse 360 is to say, look, you are generally advising on similar things across your clients. Why not use the power of a database and put the advice in, create value for your practice, so that you can have a reusable micro templates, as I call them. And those can be attached to different topics that you may be advising on. You can see here auto, and that's just because I had done a demo for an insurance person that does auto insurance, for example. But business planning, for example, if you're advising on business planning, you can attach these micro templates. Now, with the ability of flexible fields, which is very easy to build in, and I'll kind of show you that here in a little bit, you can add advice that's different by client, by client, by client. So we'll go back, and I'll just go back to all topics. You don't need to be on any particular topic to start using the system. This is where all the micro templates are housed. Now, we will, in the beginning, seed this with about 70 or so micro templates that I have created. But really, the idea is for you to customize for your practice, because I don't know what you're advising on. I don't know the words you use, how you will have your practice image. So all of that is for you to kind of add to this. And that's the major point of this software, is to give you the power to build this in over time, and add those micro templates. So I'll show you all of that in just a second. So let's say we're going to start getting ready here, and I want to request a pay stub for this client to bring in 401k, what have you, for a financial plan. All I did was just type pay, and I was able to bring that up. Now I'm going to show you the flexible field capability. So I'm just going to say tax, because I want to or request a previous year tax return for a cost basis. So here's, please provide us a copy of your tax return, and I can just type in 2018, let's just say. And this is for your Apple stock, for example, right? And I'll add a couple more items. So let's say that, you want to make sure that we will review your risk tolerance at this meeting. And then let's do something more internal. Let's say, we have proposed long-term care for the client, but the client has declined, right? This is an important note for you to remember as an advisor before you're going into the meeting, because you don't want to bring something up, of course, if that was already a no-no going in. I'll also add in, from an opportunity perspective, that we're tracking somewhere, and we can say right before the meeting, like, hey, this client has an account that's $450,000, and that's as of January 2020, let's just say. So what you're doing here literally is basically building the agenda for this meeting. And now with our setup being on the cloud, you can have your team anywhere remotely, and you guys can all come in and add different micro templates and build this agenda out. And I'm going to jump back over to Redtail to kind of show you all of these notes and what's happening with them in Redtail. So I'm going to jump back over and I'm going to open up the webinar. And what you're seeing here, this was the test that I did. And we create our own placeholders and then add in all the notes. So let me see if I can expand this a little bit so it's better. So all the notes we added have come in right here. Now, I'm going to cancel this one out. Oops, sorry, that was the wrong one. It's this one. I was wondering why that one had so many. There you go. So all the notes have been populated. Mike has this. So this is all coming in automatically behind the scenes and populating in the description for the appointment. And this happens before the appointment time. After the appointment time, we actually add these as notes in Redtail. So I'm going to close that out and go back over here. One thing that I also want to share here is that each one of these is actually inline editable. So for example, please provide us a copy of your 28 tax return. This is for the Apple stock, and that's not enough information. So let's come in here and say, you know, let's say we need to determine the cost basis, right? So if I jump back over to Redtail, and let me make sure I go in, not the pre-test version, but the one that I just did. And you can see that's immediately populated in. And let me get out of here. So now let me show you what we can do with this agenda that we have. We now can actually email this out to the client. So I'm going to go ahead and tag the items that I want to show up as an agenda item in an email. Now, if you notice here, one thing is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 items here, but 2 of them are really not client facing. Those are more internal notes for you. You know, long-term care has been declined and that you're tracking an asset. The 3 items here are client facing. And I want to show you how we're handling this for you. I've tagged all of them for agenda items. I'm going to create a document. Overall, there's 2 types of documents that we create. Summaries, which are, you know, follow-ups or summaries, and agendas. So in this case, I'm going to pick agenda. You can build out all customized agendas as you please. So you have the power to do this. So right now I have 3 here, for example. So I'm going to pick email agenda. I'll pick the salutation. So now what this will do is actually prepare the email that says, you know, we look forward to seeing you. We'll review your risk tolerance. You know, this is for the Apple stock, for example, and bring in this information. And of course, your email signature and any disclosures and what have you. So those micro templates have been fed into this main template. And now from here, you can email this out. So we have a built-in email integration with your email. So if you're using Gmail, Outlook, or some other email system, you authorize us at one of the steps in the application, and then every email that you send out from Pulse360 is actually using your email server. So it goes and sits in your sent box. So whatever compliance and you know, things that have to run through it's all using your system. We don't have an email send capability per se because we're using your servers basically to do that. You can change the subject, of course. You can add additional, you know, if they have partners or husband or wife, you can add them. You can even just actually type in, you know, straight up if you have an attorney that you need to reach out or CPA you need to reach out, and then just press send and that will be sent. So I'm going to just go ahead and send this right now just so you can see. Of course, none of them have the real email. Once you're sent, you're getting a little bit of a happy confetti. You know, I decided to tell my developers to add that in just for fun. One thing I want to share here also is, as you can see, there's 3 items, and originally we had 5 on the main work area that you were seeing. Well, those other 2 items were not client facing. So you could come in here and actually pick up a housekeeping agenda. So if you're the type of person that likes to have a PDF or a printout, you have this option. Of course, if you're going completely paperless, you don't even need this because it's all sitting in the work area that we were in before, as well as in Redtail as well. Right. So now I'm going to just go ahead and click the housekeeping agenda so you can see. So here's an agenda that's just internals and housekeeping items that pulls it. Now I'll show you, you can also have a formalized agenda if you wanted to have it before the meeting. And as you're seeing, I'm not going back and changing anything. I'm just picking different templates to do this. So here's a more of a formal agenda for the client if you wanted to kind of have it on screen these days. Of course, with COVID, we're not meeting clients face-to-face as much. So you could have this available on your screen as well. You can download this as a PDF, print it, and of course, as we already showed you, email capability. So that's really the pre-meeting, right, prep point. Now I'm going to show you how, if you're during the meeting, if you're typing things up, we have an open, digital, what I call this scratch pad. Basically, you can just keep typing. We are doing a webinar, for example. I'm going to close this out, and if I jump back over to Redtail, and I'll go into the Redtail webinar appointment that I have, and let me enlarge this a little bit again and make this bigger. You can see those notes are being added automatically underneath. So these are notes from the meeting, basically. The other way that we have also introduced, and this is actually going to be launched towards the end of July, and I'm jumping over to an entirely different environment because we're testing this on that, is this digital notepad. So you can actually take your yellow pad and now actually utilize an iPad or a Microsoft Surface to take your notes. This is all functioning right now. The only reason we're delaying it is because on an iPad, when you rotate the iPad on a portrait mode, it's squishing it. So that's the only reason that I've pushed it. But the functionality is all here. In fact, when you press to the cloud, what it will do is actually in Redtail itself, you'll put a link, this link right there, that will actually go back and open up that digital notepad. So you can now imagine if you and your team are separate because of COVID or what have you, the advisor can be anywhere out on the field and take these handwritten notes, and it can be saved. It's saved for the client for that appointment time securely in this. You don't need to go and use another system like Evernote and copy or take a picture or use the yellow pad. So this is moving us to the next level of your notes, basically. So you have both ways. You can either, if you're a handwritten type of person, you can use that, or of course, if you're a type of person that just types, you can use the inbuilt, document right there that you can just start typing. Now, let me add, now what we're going to jump over is to do actually a follow-up, and I'll add, so I can show you how you add micro templates to the system. As I said before, you can add as many different topics as you want. So, there's financial planning, housekeeping, internal notes, investments, what have you. Let's add a new note. And let's say it's, you need to do this now because of Reg BI, let's just say, right? That, we are recommending you to sell. And I'm just going to say stock. It has not performed as well as we had hoped. Obviously, you would write something better than what I just did, but I'm just kind of writing this on the fly. What I'm showing you here is I have created a flexible field by adding 2 curly brackets, and you can add as many as you want. So for example, we will sell, right? So you could have, let's say, 100% here, for example. Oops. So there's 2 flexible fields. We choose where this will fit as far as a topic. Now, sometimes some things will fit in 2 or 3 different topics. You're just going to have to make a call for your practice, what you think is best where it fits. So I'm going to just choose investments on this one. And when I press add, what this will do is actually add it to your micro templates database that will be available for your entire practice as well as across all your clients to use again and again. And it's also going to make it available immediately within this client meeting node and ask you, okay, what is the stock that you're selling? So let's just say, this is Apple again. I have nothing against Apple. It's just, something that's easy for me to remember. And we will sell 100%. So now what we're doing is starting to build out a follow-up. And now I'm going to do some financial planning language. So let's say this client is running a deficit. So we can say you're currently running a cash flow deficit of what amount? And we can just say, let's say it's $70,000. And let's just say that's a 10% withdrawal rate. Let's say they have, $700,000 in assets. You see now basically the power of the flexible field. You can have all of this and just have even a junior staff now start building this for you. And before they send out, you can eyeball this. Let me add a couple of other items here. So let's say, you're recommending a change for a fund. So in this case, the language says 401k, but of course you can replace it with an account. So let's just say, Mike, let's change out the old fund to the new fund, for example, and the new fee is this, and the old fee was 70 bips, let's just say. And finally, let me add that, they have a trust, but it needs to be updated. So saying, I recommend you have your estate attorney review your trust, and that's because it was set up in year 2000. And let's say this is good enough as far as what we've built. Again, you can come in here and just change this right, in line as well. So if you needed to add some flavor, what I recommend as a best practice is if this is something you're adding that potentially could be used for other clients, then you may want to go and edit the micro template itself and add it there so that you can reuse it over and over and over. So now I'm going to go ahead and create the summary items. And we'll go to create documents. So instead of the agenda, we'll jump over to the summary. And I'll do a printed version so you guys can see the formatting capability that we've built in. And actually, here's a salutation that I'm not really happy with. So let's say one of the things we do is we pull this salutation from Redtail. So for example, Mike MK Moyer, you can see that's how that's being fed in. But if you needed more flexibility from a family perspective, you could come in and add a formal greeting also. So Mike and Linda, let's say, oops, right? So now that's added behind the scenes from a salutation perspective. And actually, let me add a second salutation here. That's more of a greeting saying, hello, Mike and Linda. So you'll see where it pops up here. And so here's the Mike and Linda Moyer, the official one. I don't have an address built in here, but it would pull in the address if it was. I didn't put that in Redtail because it pulls that, but we don't have one. Just this is test. So here's dear Mike and Linda. It was a pleasure meeting you. Here's your recommendations, basically. And now you can print this out, or of course send out an email. If you're sending an email, you're not going to use this template because this generally doesn't look. You'll just pick the, the email version of this. And again, all of those are fully customizable by you and your practice. So here's, let me zoom out back out, right, with your email signature. And this can now be sent again. One thing I also want to bring to your attention with this form CRS, as well as any other attachment that you want, let's say you need to add the form CRS to this client. We have a document vault built into the system where you can upload PDFs. So here's a hypothetical form CRS. And then because we're recommending them to have an estate attorney, let's also attach the attorney referral PDF that we generally send out. Those get added at the bottom. And when you email that out, those go as attachments. So yeah, those are the main functions of the system. So I want to open it up for questions, if any.
All right. Thanks, Anand.
Yep.
All right.
There you go.
So before we go to questions, just wanted to bring this up on the screen here. So Anat has a special deal for us, early access advisors. You have 2 packages to choose from, both the starter and the pro. Anat, can you explain the difference between the 2 of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So the starter plan, it has the Redtail integration. The pro, of course, has that as well. But the starter plan, what it doesn't have is that digital notepad, the one with the handwriting. That's not part of that. And actually, that reminds me, I missed, kind of showing a couple of other things. So if you let me share again, because the pro plan has an annual summary piece. And actually, I did not show that. So let me share that with you. So apologize. Give me 1 second. So let me actually show you the annual summary piece, because that's also part of the pro plan. So I'm going to just change my environment, because this other environment has a lot more data, and which will be relevant. So I have done about 132 demos here. So basically, just imagine this is 132 appointments for this client. We have a couple of things that we do with this. We can pull up all the notes, and now we can instantly search, did we ever discuss about Microsoft? So immediately it searches. In fact, it searches the topics as well. So for example, I have an internal financial planning topic that I have created. And I'll show you why in just a second. And I can just type, and now all my internal financial planning notes, I can see right off the bat, right? The other part of this is to say, let's create an internal financial planning. When I used to do planning, anytime I had to do a new planning cycle, there was always in my mind, like, did I miss something? Is there something we needed to address at this particular planning cycle? What you can now do is run an internal financial planning document, and you'll see what happens there. That will actually pull in all your internal financial planning notes in one place. So this is for you as a PDF you could save right before you start a planning cycle. Here's what you need to do for this next upcoming cycle. Set aside a budget. We're going to look at pension benefits. Here's the areas of opportunities, and here's what the previous advice was, what we delivered. So this is, a power of the system once you start using it and just pulling all notes. Now, the Pro plan has also time-based summaries. So if you wanted to show your value, I've been in the field for 20 years. I can tell you, being thousands of client meetings, as soon as they leave, they're forgetting half the things that we have discussed. That's because this is our bread and butter, not necessarily theirs. And with margin compression or fee compression, however you want to term it, I think your value to show to the client is really, really important. Now we're enabling you to have the power to send out a summary. So I'm going to create this one for last year, for example. And just by picking the time base, I'll say create document. I'll pick summary, and I'll do an annual summary printed template. So you can kind of see. Here's an annual summary. I'm telling advisors you could do this as a Thanksgiving tradition, where you can just say, hey, we wanted to thank you for your trust, right? As the years progress, this is how much we've done for you. You're not going to have 50 appointments, I doubt, with one particular client, unless you have Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates as clients, right? But you can see the power of the system by being able to pull all this up that you can now send out to the client. That took probably 10 seconds or 20 seconds, less than 20 seconds basically to do. So going back, that's one of the things in the Pro plans, as well as that digital notepad piece.
Right, cool. So thanks for that clarification there. If you're interested in learning more about Pulse360 or want to get started, go ahead and contact them. The email address is there, info@pulse360.com.
Thanks so much for joining us today for this particular session. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call at 800-206-5030, option 3 for support, or just shoot us an email over to support@redtailtechnology.com. Thanks a lot and have a great day.